he's made this announcement very early. I mean, if he wins the primaries, that means he's been in campaign mode for 2 years, essentially, by the time the actual presidential election comes around in 2024. I think that could backfire on him. People could be sick of him by then. What do you think?
Yeah, that's the big danger, isn't it? I mean, also it's going to cost him a lot of money, but then it's probably not a problem. And he can probably finance it without sending his son to Moscow cap in hand. He can probably just, unlike Biden. But it's a long strategy, and it gives people time to see him and weigh him up and against the competition. And he's going to have to be, I think, very careful, because I mean, when he got the presidency, or whether he got the nomination, 3 years ago, 2 years ago now? No, I'm not counting right. 6 years ago now. You could see how he could rise above that field quite easily. There's some reasonable candidates there, but nobody that was going to perform as well as he did. And it's probably doubtful if they would have beaten Hillary Clinton if they'd had a less abrasive candidate. So let's give him that. But now, of course, I think we're looking at a completely different field. I mean, I don't know all the candidates involved that well, but from what I read and hear about them, I would have thought he's got at least 3 strong competitors there, with one standout, one who is now the bookies' favourite.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Well, I mean, Trump never does anything with the goal of losing, that's for sure. I mean, he wouldn't have embarked on this with anything less than the intention of absolutely destroying the field. So he's clearly determined, and he's proved before that he has that ability. Now, how viciously, I mean, his biggest obstacle, as you've hinted, is Ron DeSantis, the Florida governor. How viciously will he attack DeSantis, do you think? Well,
I think it's sort of generally clear that he went over the top when he attacked him on the Sunday or the weekend before the primaries, when he called him Ron de Sanctimonious. I mean, it wasn't a very good pun for a start, but it was certainly too hard. If you're up against somebody who is popular, you have to approach it a different way. The one I always remember is Lyndon Johnson. Back in the late 40s, he's running against Pappy O'Daniel. Pappy O'Daniel was the very, very popular governor of Texas at the time, who had a daily radio show. He was like the sort of Alan Jones, the great Alan Jones of Texas of his time. So he had the audience, a very loyal audience. They loved him, and he used to he had this band called the Flower Boys that used to sponsored his brand of flour and used to go around the country singing country and western music. So he was the big deal. And Lyndon B. Johnson said, well, how are we going to unseat him? And they came up with the slogan, Pappy O'Daniel's a great guy, but we don't want to lose him in Texas. We don't want to send him to Washington. We want to keep him right here. And Lyndon Johnson lost that campaign instead. I think the only campaign he lost. But I thought it was a pretty good stab.
Yeah, well, I mean, Florida loves him. Maybe
stay in Florida.